They're guys. They do magic. They are the Magic Guys.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't believe this. We are at episode 193 of the Magic Guys. Up to my right, we got Nick K.
Welcome to the show, friends.
And on the other side, we got Mr. Master, Doug Kahn.
Bonjour, bonsoir, and everything in between. How y'all doing?
That was pro. I'm doing really well, man. And, I've been a little unwell, like just over the last weekend, just too much being a magician. It's all good. Yeah. But hey, I'm Josh Norbito, one of your wizards today. This is the podcast where we chat about our lives as magicians, interview really cool people in the field, and share our shenanigans. As we can see already in the chat, Nick, who is joining us on the live? Because you could watch this live.
In the house, we have our good friend Thomas Conger, Tim Askin, our good friend Scotty P, who is doing so well in the magic realm, who's been listening to our episodes regularly, taking our advice, reaching out to us for advice. Bro, you are so good. We are so proud of you. So
let me tell you what's happening, fellas. As we're a little low on attendance in the United States, I don't think half our audience has figured out it's been time change, and it's actually an hour earlier here now. So in about 45 minutes, everyone will roll in and be like, what's happening? We're late.
Yeah, true. And also in Australia, it's Melbourne Cup Day, which is a big day for horse racing. So everyone's like going out to some kind of luncheon event, which Nick, I'm assuming you're gigging somewhere for that today?
No. I don't want to say it as a slander, but
they don't pay that much. You can say it. Those gigs don't pay that much.
I don't know this is what upsets me. Like the racing industry, horse racing industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and they can't fork out for decent entertainment. You know what I mean?
Well, like, it's the actual venues putting on a spread for people that come and watch the game. At least in Brisbane, they're coming to watch the game on a TV screen to watch the race. Yep. So it's not like it's the Melbourne Cup per se, but it's these venues selling ticketed seats that are, over here, like over the years, I've sort of ran through every venue, and they've all just sort of eventually gone, that's too expensive for whatever reason, even though it goes really well. And I'm in the same place as you. So I know a lot of guys are booked today,
let me say, last time I did it, it was a really good time. So I'll save that for a gig story a little later on.
What about the Formula One? Did they take care of you, Norbito?
Dude, yeah, Singapore knows how to do it. Formula One paid me, it might be the most I've ever been paid for an event, just to help that fuel my fellow Magis. And they also let me bring my partner, gave her access, gave us an extra suite in the hotel to accommodate 2 people. Like, that was great. That was just really good. A little bit different to
that's how you want your talent coming into the event. Comfortable, not like, we're making grunt money for this thing. Ugh.
Yeah. And I have good news. I can't, I won't say publicly yet until I've signed the dotted line, but it looks like I have another overseas contract for February next year in another place around the world, which is cool. But
not surprised. Zero surprised.
That's not the goods that we're here for today. Doug messaged us a while back and was like, hey, I've got an in to this freaking cool dude that has a world of knowledge to be able to share with the pod. Doug, how did you get connected with this gentleman?
As I start talking about this, man, I'm a little embarrassed. I haven't invited him on our skit before. Magic Mike Dardin, not that Magic Mike. If you're on Instagram, I think that's his hashtag. Boy, we go way back. I'm going to guess about 30 years. That's how long he's been a professional. And I remember when I was managing Warpo's Magic Shop in the early 2000s, he was always hanging around that joint. We'd bump into each other at gigs back then. So we've been working shoulder to shoulder in New Orleans for nearly 25 years. And, Mike's born and raised here. And wow, did he make things happen really over the last 10, 15 years? I can't list all the accolades. There's been so many, but he decided to attack the magic world of, the contests. He started entering all the contests in the States and even internationally, even competed at FISM. Has accumulated over 30 awards. I read that on his website. Damn. That's probably a lie. He also lies a lot. That's Mike Dardin's skit. I don't know. He'll tell us. He probably will just come on and list them all. So yeah, a true professional, the hardest working magician in New Orleans, an international award-winning act. This guy is multi-talented. He's going to tell you about his acting, his improvisation school and classes that he does, and juggles. There's lots more. Let's bring him on so he can talk about it. Michael Dardan. Josh asked me, he goes, is this one okay? I forgot you stopped dyeing your hair a couple years ago. I should have picked a different thumbnail for you.
Right. No, but I used that picture for so long that it's like iconic. But yeah, I look at it and go like, who's that guy? Right.
Well, let me just say what a wonderful problem to have, Michael. Now, for the listeners for the first time, please tell us who you are. Problems.
Well, I am Michael Dardan, and I lie for a living, like Doug said. And actually, I don't know if he saw this on my shirt. Look what my shirt says.
Lies, 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 lies.
Whoops.
There you go. So now you know. I think my biggest like asset is versatility, because I'm mainly a magician. That's like in the top there, but I've done so many different like aspects of entertainment. Sorry, hold on, my cord got stuck under my chair. Like that. I've got so many. I guess because of my ADD, I'd get bored easily. So while some people just kind of like have one field of endeavor, I've sort of learned from all of them. So like film production and script writing and improv comedy and acting and juggling and basket weaving, you name it. Actually, and one of my favorites is that I'm a virtual ninja, streaming like virtual reality on Twitch, which is not every magician does that.
Damn.
You're doing what's the platform? Is it MetaQuest with
Well, actually I use both Quest and Steam, and because I have the two different systems so that I'm using, and I have an entire green screen room behind me so that they can see me in mixed reality.
Yeah, so you're like in it, and they're watching you as though you were in the game.
So I'm the game, and so that's why I dress up. So that's one thing about like I've always been a stickler for staying in character and, having characters. I love dressing up, like getting in character. And I noticed that a lot of people were in this mixed reality, but they weren't dressing. They're just in boxer shorts. And I was like, no. I'm going to be the ninja. Like I'm the game character. You're watching me now, a live person, do these things. And it's funny because people tune in and, the screen, you're like this big on the screen, right? So it takes them a second to realize, oh, this isn't an avatar. This is an actual person in a costume, right? Or as I call it, a uniform. I don't like.
Can we sort of explore character development, because you have quite an exorbitant acting background and so forth, and a lot of magicians I talk to, this might be like a two-part question, because character development is one thing, but I also find that as you evolve through your career, and thankfully you had a very successful and long one, that you find yourself changing. Like the person you were performing in your 20s is very different to the person you're going to be when you hit your 40s and so forth. So let's start with the question of saying, like, as far as character development goes, what advice do you have for those who are starting and finding their character?
Well, I would say for me, it was actually easier to develop other characters than to figure out who I was, like what my own was. I would say that took years to master. That when Doug first met me, I was just trying to figure it out and trying to, just figure out how to make this trick work and make it entertaining, and not knowing how it was actually me or who I was. And I feel like that took years, whereas it was so much easier and more fun to just go like, who's this character? What kind of accent? What's the name? Does he have a mustache? Like, and that is just more easier and more fun. And I've just always kind of loved like delving into the world of being someone else. So like one of the main characters that I do is sort of an extension of myself, which is Cousin Cajun Mike, who is, since I'm from Cajun country and I started realizing that everybody loved that. Oh, there you go. There's Cousin.
I have a program from the Society of American Magicians convention where Mike produced a couple of shows. You did this one too, the Masquerade Magic. That was a good one, but this is the one that showcases your character, Cousin Cajun Mike, and Cajun accent.
So question about Cousin Cajun Mike: is he your stand-up character?
Basically, that it is a stand-up character. In fact, people have asked before if I could show up somewhere and do Cousin Cage and Mike doing sleight of hand magic, and it's so funny how, okay, I get their thought process, but to me, I was just like, obviously, no. Like, why? How would Cousin Cage and Mike know anything about sleight of hand? That makes no sense. Like that, because it just doesn't fit the character. He like basically, I'm a couillon, as we say in down south. I'm a doofus, and so like for him to all of a sudden be smooth and slick and fanning cards, like what? That just would not be his character. Now him messing up magic tricks or doing gags that where he's trying to do magic but reveals it or whatever, or drops it on the ground, that makes sense, you know.
Well, in his defense, Gambit's Cajun, right? And he's pretty swift with cards.
Gambit is Cajun, y'all, and that makes it hard for him to be smooth with an accent like that. But I learned that girls love it because they be like, talk to me in Cajun. And I'm like, it's not a language. And I don't have to impress you guys with card throwing skills, but they used to call me Gambit in high school because as I was learning sleight of hand from 13 on, I would throw cards everywhere. And I have more reason to hate Channing Tatum than anyone because not only did he steal my stage name for no reason, he became my favorite character in the world.
It's true. You were the first Magic Mike in this. You were Magic Mike before Magic Mike was a thing.
No card tricks in the movie. Spoiler
Mike.
alert, he didn't do a single card trick as Magic Mike. Yeah.
That is weird. That is such a good play on words and opportunity, you know. But then he plays Gambit, so...
Well, you got to give him that. I mean, you know, that kind of makes him cooler than any of us. The fact that he gets to play Gambit. But I watched the whole movie and I thought, well, at least they're going to explain it. Like at some point, they're going to explain where he got the name. Like, did Matthew McConaughey make it up? Like, there's no like, why isn't he Dancing Dave? You know,
or stripping Steve.
Stripping Steve would have been better. I would go watch that movie. Yeah.
Or like Dong like, Doug or something. Yeah. Wayne. There's so many. Where's the magic coming from?
Actually, that's the name. They have a version of it that they dubbed in Korean, and I believe that's the title. They changed the title up. Yeah.
Let's go. That's awesome.
So I'm curious, Mike, your magic character, which I believe is you, right? It's not like, like it's definitely Michael Darden, right?
I would say that that's the closest to me. That basically when I'm Magic Mike, it's really just me in my element of like I enjoy being on stage, and here's my comedy timing. Here's what I feel like is the way that I present. And other than that, the only difference may be that on stage I never curse, and maybe when you meet me in person and it's just really me hanging out without the hat on, then maybe I'll get a little more blue, but not even that much, because it doesn't fit me,
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Nice one. And can I ask as well, so Doug was saying all of these accolades with magic competitions. That's sort of a funny thing in the magic world. Like people are like, do I focus on trying to, figure out how to get gigs as a magician, or do I try and, do competition acts? Like what benefits have you found to like committing to entering these competitions to like improve your act, or like do they differ to what you might do in the real world? Like what's sort of been your process throughout your life? A lot of differences.
That's an excellent point and great question, because there is kind of a question of that. Like when we talk about like who can represent the United States in FISM now and do a good job, well, the people that we think of, we go like, why would they? Why do they need that? Like, why would Lance Burton have to go back over to FISM? You know what I mean? Like he's, and so the reason behind it, I would say twofold. One, I felt the need to prove myself in the magic world. But I think also that there really has to do with the second part, which is to prove myself to me. I feel like it really was about that. I needed that to prove to myself that I can justify my price. I can justify my talent. When a client is talking to me, I can say, hey, look at the site. I did it. I prove that I have the accolades to prove that I can even stand out amongst my peers, that my own peers, they respect me and they appreciate what I do. And so look at the hair. And so
you're holding the first place International Brotherhood of Magicians trophy. Is that correct?
Yes. And that was the first one.
Yeah. And then you just went on a tear and you ran around the world collecting all kinds of trophies. I'm in your gallery. We're looking at pictures on Mike's site. You did a comedy act. Here you are with Kitty Chaos and Trixie Minx, each of which were featured in your award-winning show. Is that correct?
Yeah. So there was actually 2 acts. That was the other thing that I did was I went like, if I'm going to make these trips and I'm going to be traveling all over, going to these competitions, I may as well like double my chances of taking home a trophy. So I was entering close-up magic and stage magic the whole time. Now, most of the awards are in close-up magic. So most people know. Oh, hear me?
No, I said smart. I was pointing my head to smart.
That was your ear. Okay.
I wasn't aware that you had done that, Michael, but that's super smart approach, man. Double down.
Actually, in Quebec, there was no rules about how many categories you could enter. So the first time I've been to the Festival of Magic in Quebec, like maybe 8 times, and the first time there was 5 categories. And I asked, how many categories can you enter? And they're like, as many as you want. I entered all 5 with 5 different acts and took first place in 2 of them.
Wow.
And because like in the first and only time I ever won a mentalism award, which is like, Doug knows I'm not really a mentalist, but I won first place in mentalism because that's the act fit that category. It was more of a just, increase the odds kind of thing. Now that was a little crazy. I would say I would never do that again because basically for 5 days straight, myself and Shanna Forrestal, who was my assistant, were by the hotel pool rehearsing and rehearsing and rehearsing because there was 5 different acts for her to learn because she's an actress who had never done magic or anything. I just said, I need somebody, you're going to do this because I know you can. And she had to learn 5 acts in 2 weeks. And
who was this?
Shanna Forrestal. Brilliant actress that I've worked with. A quick plug for a movie that I'm in called Trailer Park Jesus from a few years ago, and she plays my wife. Trailer Park Jesus is hilarious. I definitely recommend being on something or drinking something when you're watching it. It's that kind of flick, But the great thing is we're working on Sean Gerwin, the director, is working on the sequel. He's working on a script right now for the sequel.
You won some awards for that, right? It's an award-winning movie?
We won I think 13 awards at comedy film festivals, and most of them like comedy related. It did so well on the independent market. It's available on Amazon, YouTube. It's just never, it's not a blockbuster hit. It's not an Avengers movie. It's, an independent film that was filmed here in Louisiana.
When you're doing that, is it just like a labor of love? You just get together with some, fellow filmmakers and just put the best effort you can?
For the most part, it is. In fact, to give you an idea, I framed the check. I didn't bother depositing the check I got. I framed it with the movie poster, so it's in there. Which
anything's possible, though. You're right. You make a good film, and you never know. So.
You never know, and the thing is, why would you want to get away with that? That's kind of one of the problems in that balance that you try to achieve in our industry is like. Once you start getting paid for it and you realize you need to get paid for it and you want to get paid for it, you kind of have to say no to when you're not paid for it. But when does it stop being a labor of love? And it should it. So that shouldn't stop you from making a labor of love. That should kind of always be the priority because that's what makes it about the art and makes you shine in what you do is the fact that they can tell you love this. You love what you're doing here. When we watched the, the screening of one of the many versions of Trailer Park Jesus, it was still 7 versions away from the final, but there was a couple of the director's friends there watching with us and just 5 of us on the couch. And at the end, Sean goes, well, what do you think? And the guy sitting next to me goes, oh, I really love that Paul character, which is who I play. And I think he's making a joke, because I'm sitting right there and he goes, I love that Paul. He was so amazing. And he's going off, and Sean realized, he goes, you realize Paul's sitting right next to you, and he looks over and he had no idea. And that to me was the best compliment I could get as an actor ever. The fact that I'm sitting next to this guy while he watches me an entire movie, not knowing that it's me, that I'm him. There it is. Yes. So there's Jesus. Jesus turned water into wine coolers in this movie. Jesus turns water into
the Trailer Park Jesus, of course.
The Trailer Park Jesus. Basically the entire, I don't know if can we talk about Acid? The Unicorn, by the way, that's the director. The entire movie's about this trailer park on acid is essentially, what part of the plot line there.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Gee, that's a really out there plot. When I did check your sort of the accolades and things you've been involved with, I want to see if I read this correctly. Were you in a movie called Where Strippers Go to Die?
Yes, I was. And guess what? You know what the answer is? New Orleans.
Bourbon Street.
Exactly. We figured it out.
I used to go watch them die, literally.
Yeah, you can see it happen.
I feel like there's an in-joke there that us on our side of the planet, we kind of don't get. What's the connotation there where strippers go to die? Could you fill us in?
Yeah, so these guys are from Australia. So what a strip club is... I'm
not a strip club kind of guy, but I've ended up in a couple of times, and you end up in one or two here that's the wrong joint, and it's just jaw-dropping what they'll put on a stage in this city. It's really like its own form of entertainment.
That's kind of the dichotomy there, because that's not what the film is about at all. It's like a horror, like drama, murder mystery thing. But the whole joke about the title is the fact, it was a drama. It's not a comedy by any means. In fact, that's probably one of my only that's one of the only dramatic roles that I can remember. And Shanna Forrestal, who I was just talking about, was also in that and was there and helped me through that, because I was like, I'm a comedian, I don't know how to play this, and she was amazing. Just in 10 minutes, the acting instruction she gave me is something that I'll never ever forget, and that I've been able to apply to everything. But the joke of the title is that, as Doug said, like if you ever been to a strip club, like that one of the best questions you can get on Bourbon Street is which one should we go to, because you got your ritzy high end joints, and then you got what we would call like your truck stop on the way to Alabama. Where they can't even serve alcohol because that's too risky. Like that's there's a difference. Yeah, wow. There's just like there's a difference in good magicians and bad magicians. There's definitely the location.
Let's talk like a little transition from like your independent movie stuff. You do a lot of work in this town also on the professional television end of things. We're pretty busy here producing TV shows in New Orleans, and you're always doing something. CSI or whoever's filming here.
Yeah.
I have had some interesting roles, and I realize that they usually look for me for interesting roles, so that can work for you or against you. So like, for example, I want somebody to think of me for a role that I could fit, and that if I look the role and I can bring some talent, not just because, this requires juggling or sleight of hand. So I would say that a lot of times they think of me for specific reasons. Like, for example, I played the Silverman in NCIS, where I was the living statue. They knew that I had performance experience, and I had been in New Orleans. They figured this guy could, he knows something about street performing. He could play this role. I was the only one that showed up to the audition completely in character, which amazed me. That's another time when I was like, no, Cajun Mike doesn't do magic. Why would you not come to this audition painted silver? It's to play a silver statue. Why would you not? That doesn't make sense to me. And of course, and got the role and nailed it. But that you want to be kind of considered for you want the challenge of being able to go to after roles they wouldn't even think that you would be able to kill, but you kill it in the audition. And I will say that I've been very, very busy with auditions. Now, how many roles do I land? I don't even care anymore. Like I said, labor of love. You just do them, send them off like little birds, and like maybe it'll come back to me, probably not. And I actually did the math, because I keep all my video files of the auditions, and it took 100 auditions to nail the last one I did on Disney Plus. So it was over 100. So it was actually 100. And so like, how many people are going to play that numbers game? Are going to take it that serious? They're like going to do it.
Persistence. Can you talk a bit about that process? Are these online auditions now? Is that a common thing, or?
It is now. It wasn't before. It used to be that every time you had an audition, you'd have to drive somewhere across town and get in front of the casting director and, try to memorize it before you got there, have the sides with you, figure out what they're going for. Since COVID, we started doing online auditions where it's you and your own camera in front of, like, this screen behind me actually flips around and becomes a blue screen. So you want your audition in front of gray or blue, not a green screen. And you film, you set up good lighting. You try to have somebody hopefully read with you, because it's really difficult, if there's nobody there, because normally the casting director would have a reader. So if there's lines and someone's reading back to you, you can't really do that without. So there is that challenge, but it does make it more accessible. Like, I've been able to, I don't think I would have been able to do as many of those auditions every time I had to drive across town. And so that accessibility makes it kind of like, why not work hard? If some people, like, I might get the role because I got up early and did it. And that's one of the things, is like, if you just get after it, like, these are simple, knock them out. Who knows what they're looking for? Don't worry about the rejection. Who cares? That was 99 no's to get one yes, but that one yes was awesome, and it was fun, and it was worth it. And like, the 99 no's were worth it too, because those were fun as well. And those were different characters that I got to have the challenge of. So when I get aggravated with it, I haven't nailed one in a while, I just remind myself of that, you know what, who gets to get up, have fun playing a new character each day? So just do it. Just, why not show them what you got, and they can reject you as many times as you want. There's no limit. That's the thing. There's no limit to the amount of rejections you can get. No one has said you can only get this much rejection. You can do it all your life. It's great.
I think a lot of people fear that rejection and fear, like, and assume it as a type of failure. Do you have any advice for people who are too afraid to even try that sort of thing?
That's one thing. I'll plug the improv right now, because that's one principle that improv comedy teaches you, is to embrace failure. Because where else can you just slam dunk the failure, which I guess is my phrase. I don't know where I come up with this. You slam dunk the failure and you can still be a success, because you're still entertaining. When everyone knows that, you were just thrown under the bus and you don't have a script, then no matter what you do, as long as you do it and you nail it, it's gonna work. It's gonna be entertaining, because they're gonna love it. So like, if Doug and I are in a scene and Doug makes me a Russian character, just calls me Boris for some reason. Now, I might have a great Russian accent, I might have a horrible Russian accent, but either way, it's gonna be hilarious. It's gonna kill. It's gonna be entertaining, because they know that until 1 second ago, I didn't know my name was Boris. But when you work on that kind of stuff and you accept that, it becomes so much easier to accept failure in any situation, because you're used to it, and you've kind of like acclimated to that, where you're like, I got this, it's fine. I can fail.
I want to touch base on what you're doing with improv before we get too far along, and segue into this with one of the many things that you do is actually teach improv. You've been doing it for over a decade. You want to talk a little bit about that, and then we'll talk about what you're doing online with it now.
So about maybe 12 years ago, Kate Arthurs, who is the theater director at Jesuit High School and has known me as a magician for years, because her father was a magician. In fact, I've worked with her sister, Carolyn, for years and years. So the family was very familiar with magic, but she also knew that I incorporated a lot of comedy into what I do. And so one of her students wanted to organize an improv team, but they needed a coach. They needed a moderator. They needed somebody, they needed an adult, quote unquote adult. So basically she asked herself, who do I know who would not be at a regular job on Tuesday afternoon? Magic Mike. And so she called me up. I said, I would love to do that. And having no idea, I'm thinking, okay, this is a job to earn some extra money. This could be fun. I had no idea how much I would learn, how much it would teach me to be able to evaluate this and process it and figure out the intricate details as to what works and what doesn't. And these kids talking with me after a scene, it's like we can see the Matrix, where we're like, yes, that was beautiful. That's why it worked. And it's incredible. And then so I decided, well, I've been doing that for a while now. I got my chops. People started asking me, do you offer it anywhere else? And I said, yeah. Well, actually, I didn't know how to do the online thing. That's new. The first one starts tomorrow.
Now, hold on, because you have, and I'm kind of showing your cred here. I think you have what you call a vodcast, which has a loose backbone of an improv as part of. This is your something up my sleeve. Is this associated with the IBM?
Yes. So the International Brotherhood of Magicians approached me. That was after the pandemic, because Harrison Greenbaum was doing an interview show, but got really busy again with theaters and everything. And they wanted to keep the online presence going. And I thought for years I would love to just be a host, because what more chance do you have to practice improv, right? To somebody who interviews, well, I'm talking to 3 hosts right here. So you know how much fun it can be and how much experience you can gain from that. And then I wasn't even thinking about the fact that, wow, what an honor it will be to interview some of my heroes that I've had along the way, like Sean Farquhar, Doug Kahn, Jeff McBride.
So you had some real heavy hitters on there.
Yeah, Lance Burton was one of our recent guests.
Wow.
It was incredible to have, like somebody that I watched when I was 13 years old. Watched.
Would I need to be an IBM member to watch these videos, or are they accessible elsewhere?
No, actually, they're making the whole video and some like extra stuff is going to be accessible on their website that members will be able to access at any time. Right. The rest of it, though, it's still my footage, and it exists on my YouTube page, so you can watch all of them. But I realized that you have to go to, you probably know this, you have to go to live. Like if you just go to videos, they don't show up. You have to go to live. Yeah. So I'm reposting them as videos, but also I haven't made it a podcast because I wanted to have enough set up so that I could stay consistent. And now the goal is 2025. It will be on Spotify as an audio podcast and repeat as a vodcast as well. Right. But essentially we have 36 episodes over the last 3 years, but most of them can actually be split into 2 because I had 2 guests per episode. So, for the podcast, I'm going to split those up. And Doug were you my first? Were you the number one? I think you
might have been. I don't know.
I think Doug Kahn was my very first guest ever on Something Up My Sleeve.
Damn.
Yeah, and it's because I was like, I know who to call. I know who can make this rock. I know who's right here around the corner.
So was that before you were on the Magic Guys, Doug? That must have been.
It would have been right about that same time. I guess I would have done some guest episodes and such.
I inspired him. He was like, I got to do this.
Yeah, and somehow, luckily, we snagged him.
Right. Yeah.
I like what you're saying, Mike. It's fun, you come on and you're just hanging out with your bros, meeting cool people, and it's this is very much as much of a social thing for me as anything. So yeah, it's like that.
So, absolutely.
Question about the improv, Mike. I think that practicing some of the techniques taught in improvisation is kind of important. You can't exactly yes and by yourself. What sort of advice do you have for people who want to practice their improv but don't always have people to bounce off?
Oh my God, what an amazing question. In fact, what I tell magicians is that practicing improv is kind of like practicing a watch steel or a classic force, because you're not gonna be able to do it on the mirror. Although you can start to do it in your head when you really get the concept, and all of a sudden you'll have these moments where you're like, did I just script that whole conversation that I had because it went exactly how I thought it would? Because I kind of like forced that yes and along the way. And essentially that's kind of what's happening in a classic force, right? We're yes anding them. We're watching their movements. And that's exactly what's happening on a physical level. And so one thing I point out to people is that when you don't have a partner, first of all, that's why I didn't really know how to claim these or name these principles, is because I hadn't had the proper training where like actual improv training, but these things were working for me along the way. So as an individual performer, when you don't have somebody on stage with you and you're the show, unless you're only performing like to music, apparatus type stuff, anytime you're interacting, that's improv, because the audience doesn't have a script. This volunteer doesn't have a script. You might think, you know what they're going to say when you say pick a card, but you don't necessarily. And it doesn't always go as planned. And so those are moments definitely where not only do you practice, but you store them, because when something happens, like just the other night, there weren't supposed to be any kids at this show. It was a big birthday party show. They sent me what the invite was, and it said, please don't bring your kids because this is an adult party. Sure enough, there's 3 kids there, and they're sitting in the front row when I'm performing my magic show for adults, right? But it was great. I pulled this kid up, and I told her, from my kid show way back, the magic words are yama, yama, yama. Gotta love your mama. And that's just like some silly thing I learned a long time ago, and it just works in kid shows. She accidentally goes, drama, drama, drama. Gotta love your mama. And it was, in 30 years, I've never heard that. It was brilliant. And I was like, now it's stored. Now I'm going to remember that. How do I make that happen again? Or how do I use that if the situation comes up? Or I'll say to the kid, like, if they do something weird, I'll go like, I said, yama, 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 not drama, drama, drama. And it's going to seem completely improv. And it's all because I stored that improv moment in my head to, so I can make it real again. Sorry, I hope that answered. I just kind of went on that track.
No, that's great. That's great. I think outside of that, I love improv myself, and I studied quite a bit. My personal favorite book is probably Keith Johnson's book on improv, and the first thing he says to establish in that book when you're doing any sort of improv scene is establish status. Do you think that's important?
I don't know if it's. I would say it's the most important. Like from the get-go, I feel that I say that I kind of switch the order of the rules around. So what I do is I talk about yes and first, since it's the most important thing. But that's because you got to get your mental state ready. So that is the first thing, because before anything's happened, you got to mentally know that this is how we do it. We are going to yes and this situation, and then you got to concentrate on saying the first thing that comes to your mind. And then I think once you start to establish that, then what's going to make a scene a better story is within the first 3-4 lines. Once you've established the relationship, the environment, then you would move on to like, now what's our status? Because that establishes character. And now we're not just watching two people talk. Now we're watching two characters interacting. And we can see what that status is, which can lead to the problem and the resolution, or a status switch to throw everything off unexpectedly. So status is very important. Absolutely. And
this all seems a little bit complex, and something that someone might want to have a 4-week training course to consume. Good idea. The knowledge
I don't think status should come up till probably week 4. So week 4, we definitely should talk about status, but that is a little complex for someone to remember when they're just trying to remember to not say no.
Yeah, well, that's why I agree, because he said it's the first thing you need to establish, and I'm like, that's so difficult to do. Like, well, am I the jester or the king in this scene? Like, it's very difficult to try and establish that if you're not told that you're this character, And so that's why I thought I'd ask the question. But yeah, I think that.
And difficult to portray, because you might think you have status, but if it's within your first line, your partner might completely mistake that, and they might take the status role. Like if I say you're on a planet out in space, you might think to yourself, I'm an alien, but then your partner becomes an alien before you can speak, and now you've got to adjust and realize in a sense that might be considered a status situation, but more of like a character, an opposite situation of like, if he's an alien, I should be the astronaut, and that I was going to make him the astronaut, but that's okay. I'm going to go with it because yes, and that is the truth. He established that truth. The audience knows it's true. So what do I do with it? And and this reminds me of one of my favorite moments with my students, where I was just like, oh my God, this kid gets it. It was an alien. It was the same kind of thing where I guess they were on a planet, and or somehow I didn't know that the kid was going to be an alien. Somehow maybe it was a spaceship, and so the kid didn't know he was going to be an alien. I didn't know, and the other kid, his partner, makes a comment and makes him an alien. Goes like, "Are you an whatever? You must be an alien from another planet." And his response, his yes, and he goes, "Boing." I lost it. For the next I don't know what happened after that, because I lost it. That was one of the funniest moments ever. And just like in that simple movement of yes, and obviously I'm an alien. I don't know where he got that. That was just this brilliance that came through. That I'm like, how do you recreate that? That was just incredible. That is solid improv right there.
All right. I can only see this going in one direction. I feel like we should on this pod try some kind of improv exercise now, where
I would love that.
Is there a way to do this on Zoom that you're familiar with, Michael? Or
well, and we had to, and here's how we figured that out, and this is why I realized that online improv courses weren't available 5 years ago. It's something that took a little like finessing, because until I was forced to do my classes for the J Troop on Zoom, I would have never thought about what's going to work when you're not on stage, what's going to work as a video, because it's a completely different thing of when you have to, figure out what's going on with the videos and people interrupting each other. So what we're going to do, so I've established like what games will work, what games won't. So one of my favorite opening games, can we start off simple? I know you have some experience, but we'll do one of my favorite openings.
Keep it simple. My presentation skills are limited to the patter Harry Lorraine put in the Apocalypse.
It's gonna be great for Doug. So the game is, what are you doing? Okay, and so basically what's going to happen is Nick is going to start, and when I say pantomiming, it doesn't mean you can't speak. You can use your words, but we want to see action. We want to see activity. So you're going to go ahead and start pantomiming and just doing an activity. Let's see you doing an activity, physical movement. Okay, so Doug notices that it looks like he's shooting a bow and arrow. Go ahead and add a little dialogue of like, what would you be saying at that moment, Nick? Go ahead and do it again and just add a little something.
Oh, okay.
As the character, while you're shooting the arrow, you say something.
Practice makes perfect. Eventually, I'll hit the apple, but right now we keep hitting the guy's forehead.
Oh my God, that was beautiful, Nick. That was amazing. So Doug walks up and says to you, "What are you doing?" Okay, now we all know as an audience you're shooting bows and arrows, but you're going to say something you're not doing. You're going to say something completely different. So go ahead and start shooting the arrow. Doug, you do that. Say.
That's the worst top change I've ever seen.
Oh, what? Oh, that was.
I think you were meant to say, "What are you doing?" Right?
Yeah. So that was great because Doug just represented what I mean by slam dunk the failure. That was brilliant. No matter what, that was entertaining. No matter what, Doug totally did not get this. I did not explain. That's my job as your coach. I did not explain it well enough because Doug didn't get it. The game is shot, but that was fantastic. It was still fantastic. Okay, so Doug, all your line is, "What are you doing?" You're saying to Nick, "What are you doing?"
What are you doing?
I'm playing guitar.
So now, Doug, you take over playing guitar. That was great. Or drums. So now, Doug, you're going to start playing guitar because Nick said playing guitar. Yep. Nice. And see, he's already added his own improv because he picked up a prop and he has a wand. So we have even more to work with because now it's not only a guitar, it's a magic guitar. So Doug, just add a line, just say something to go with what you're doing.
I used to be in a band.
So this is such a great scene. Okay, and so then Josh is going to go walk up to Doug and say, "What are you doing?"
Right. Doug, you've skipped your pills again. What are you doing?
Trying to get everyone to drink on the internet. I used to be in a band.
Wow. Right. So now Josh has to, let's see Josh portray that.
Okay. Yum, yum. This is tasty stuff.
That was perfect. Okay, so that is the basics of the warm-up game. What are you doing? And as you can see, there's principles in there. We don't have to go into them now, but like you're definitely yes-anding each other, and you're forced to. But to make it a little more challenging, what you do is you get 2 letters. And so whatever you're doing has to start with those 2 letters. Wait. So, Josh, give me 2 letters.
2 letters? Okay. S-T.
Okay, so obviously, just like Nick, it looks like I'm shooting a bow and arrow, but the letters are ST. So now when Nick says to me, "What are you doing?"
What are you doing?
Stopping traffic.
Yeah, all right.
Now Nick is going to start stopping traffic. And he's trapped in a box. I love it. And so now Doug is going to ask
stopping
Nick,
traffic and allowing other traffic. This is the thing.
What are you doing?
And so now he has to say something that starts with the letters S and T.
I'm slinging turds.
So now Doug's got to sling turds.
He has to.
Doug, what are you doing? This is where you would add in
this tragedy of a podcast. Man, I obviously need someone. I need someone Zoom improv course.
So now I'm trying to stop this tragedy of a podcast, right?
Stopping tragedy. That is fantastic. Good. So, and that is, gentlemen, that is what are you doing?
I get an F. And if you would ask me what I'm doing, I would say I'm serenading on Tinder. That's what I'd be doing right now. And anyway.
Oh, and then I would have to do that. So yeah. I will swipe you. I will swipe you in one direction. Will I go right? Will I go left? Let's just see what I will do.
What are you doing?
That was serenading. Yeah. Okay, well, I mean, we could keep going around, which would be fun. But,
all good. How about we, Nick? Maybe we should switch to a gig story segment.
That's a great idea. Let's roll into gig stories.
But thank you. That was.
So Gig Stories is a section of the show where we like to talk about moments of magic either while performing or going from our day to day. And who better than to start with our wonderful guest, Michael. Any cool gig stories, friend?
As Doug knows, they are endless because, you know, when you perform in New Orleans, and especially in Doug's situation where you're street performing, talk about an improv situation, you got to be ready for anything. And if you don't go home with a story, then you weren't paying attention.
I hazard to guess that this town is one of the toughest, most challenging arenas for anyone to perform in. All the parties have alcohol flowing. Everyone is in a party frame of mind. Usually my arch nemesis, Rockin' Doopsie, is playing Zydeco music with the volume cranked up to 11, and you can't talk over the music, and everyone's drunk. It's a hard town to work, right? Is this every gig, Mike?
Absolutely. We live in a town where everybody in your audience is dressed like they're about to take center stage, and sometimes they do. And you know, John Goodman was quoted as saying, "I would never open a comedy club in New Orleans because everyone's so damn funny." I mean, why go to a comedy club if you can just walk down Bourbon Street and you're going to be laughing so hard at everything you see? Because everything's crazy. This is a situation where people are who they want to be. But I mean, so much, it's almost too much material to work with, really. And so that's probably why when I think about like what gig moments have happened, there's just this barrage of craziness that comes from the French Quarter. So one of the easiest ones for me to actually bring up is something at a kids show, which was in Kenner. So it was outside of the New Orleans French Quarter area. I got asked to do this birthday party. I get to the house and the dad says, "I just bought her a rabbit. So could you make it appear?" Oof. And I realized, like, at that moment, I realized, wow, humans just have no idea what we do. Like, they just think, they really believe, this guy must believe in magic because he just thinks he just assumes that is a skill set of anyone who has like touched a book on magic in any situation, even though I didn't show up with my own rabbit or maybe a hat, which I didn't have a hat. Oh no, I must have found a hat. This is going to work because I'm trained for this. And then I thought to myself, like, you know what? I am trained for this. So I'm going to make this work because he wants to do this magical thing for his daughter. So I found a hat. I put the hat on her head. I did something with whatever I had with me. And then all of a sudden there's a rabbit in the hat. And I give her I say, guess what? This is for you because it's your birthday, which now every other kid who was at that party is going to be really pissed when they realize it's not a regular routine. And I don't bring rabbits. So at the end, all the kids are playing. The dad says to me, "So, where did the rabbit come from?" And I said, "You gave it to me." Like, I'm not taking it home. Like, you're gonna feed it, right? Like, you know, there's more to it. You don't have a magic. You have a cage, not a magic cage, right? And so he goes, no, I mean, like, the hat was on her head, and then she was holding the hat, and then the rabbit was there, and I was like, oh, that's what we call magic. Like, you're the grown up, so you're in my special club. No. Enjoy the mystery, fool. And you gave me the rabbit and the kid. You asked for this. So, like, take it for what it's worth. I'm not telling you. If I fooled you, then you deserve it. You shouldn't have bought a rabbit.
Yeah, you could have done it yourself, you bitch ass. If you knew how to do it. But no.
Yeah, so that's how muggles think.
Yeah, it's kind of remarkable. They go like, "Oh, we want to make a car appear," and it's like, "Okay, what staging do you have?" "Oh, we're just going to do it in my house." I'm like, "You are tripping." It's remarkable when you get those sort of inquiries.
But you can get so much information because, like, they're thinking out of the box since they know nothing about how anything's done. We're enclosed based on our concept of what our science presents us of, like, this is possible. Yeah, you can't do that, but they just come up with stuff like you're like, huh. And then all of a sudden you're thinking on an impossible level and a different level and a creative level because you overheard some guy in the stall say that I think he had the dove in his car the whole time. Like,
Yeah.
you don't know what they're coming up with.
Well,
All right,
I have a little story in the spirit of improv, if you guys like.
Please.
Love it.
What's your geek story?
So, well, because we actually have a full improv show here. What we do, it's called Magic Sports, and it's effectively theater sports, but we perform magic alongside them. So there's many games that we play. One of the most exciting ones that we do is Make a Trick. And what we do is we have a giant bucket in the center stage, and everyone just throws random stuff in. And then we all reach in and we grab things out, and then we have to create a trick at the end of the show. So while we're backstage, we're trying to figure out like what to do with the stuff we have. And there was this one time that a guy took off his prosthetic leg and put it in the bucket. And so we had to make up a whole routine with the guy's like prosthetic leg. So we just came out like in this pirate theme to do that. So that was like one of the cool times we've done that. But another game that is one of my proud works is we have a thing called 3 tasks. And what you need to do in this is you get 3 tasks written down on a piece of paper, and you have to do a routine and achieve these 3 tasks without people knowing. And the last time I did it was extremely difficult because I had to take off my left shoe without anyone noticing.
Whoa.
So I did that. I had to put a King of Hearts in a spectator's pockets without them noticing, and I had to steal their watch.
Wow.
Yeah. And so the way I achieved that was I walked through the audience, and as I was looking for people, I just kicked off my left shoe with my right foot, and I just left my shoe next to somebody's like handbag and left it there. So then I came back out, and then I tried to keep the attention up here. So what I did was, in the action of them coming around, I thankfully have an index of cards. So I just index as I got them to walk down. I just in the matter of adjusting them, just pocket them straight up, and then I did a coin routine to keep the attention up here, and I was doing like muscle passes and so forth, and then I did my normal watch steal routine and sent them on their way in the action of like, oh, sorry, I failed the effect, or around the way they go. And then I said like, okay, and then I had to explain what the 3 things were, and I go, I take off my shoe, everyone looks down and no one knows my shoe's gone, but it's next to this lovely lady over there. And then I had to explain that I had to put a King of Hearts in someone's pocket. Please check your right pocket. They take it out. And then I go, the last one was I had to take your watch. And I just take it out of my top it and I show them. So that was like one of the biggest challenges to do with these 3 tasks.
Now that's my idea of an improv game. Come on. That's
fantastic.
Yeah,
that's how that's how you make magicians do improv, which they don't know, which if they haven't studied it, it's completely foreign to them.
I study Harry Lorraine in the book.
What I love about that takes Bag of Tricks to a whole nother level. Right, this weekend actually is PCAM in Victoria, Canada. Farquhar and Billy Shui, Alex Seaman, Mike Norton, they started this Bag of Tricks contest where you have like 10 items that you got to make a show with, and you have like 3 minutes to do an act. But having these challenges along the way that's like a whole nother level. And here's what I love about what you said initially about how you would make a trick with a prop, but while other things are going on, you're doing these comedy sports, and the whole time you're going like, how am I going to use this false leg? Is that forces you to be in the moment, because you can't overthink all the other things you're about to do on stage. You have to let that go and just be in that moment, which is exactly what you need to do in improv, because your brain is focused on the end. It's focused on, what am I doing with this leg? Can I do my flamingo joke? Nah, it should be a pirate. And so like the whole time, and so everything else is going to be that much better because you're not going to overthink it and let yourself get in the way.
Absolutely.
To focus on. I think that's why ADD people are good performers, because it gives us something to focus on. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, like it's been a lot of fun. We've done ones where like it was called like Magic Shop, and we're trying to sell magic props, just reaching into a box and pulling out random stuff and trying to sell it. And these guys, they put these extremely chili chips in there. They were like somewhere from Asia. And I was like, oh, a bag of chips, how fun. And I ate one and my face nearly caught fire. So trying to improv while your face is on fire is another one. So
yeah, you do have to remember about real life. It's kind of like when I'm virtual reality and you have to like not run into the wall. Also, when you're improv, you have to remember that real fire burns and like stuff like that. Like, don't actually jump off the stage even though you're in character, because you might break your leg. Like you have to remind yourself sometimes. That's fantastic. Nick, I want you to I'm hoping that enough magicians are interested in my program that we can actually have one of just magicians, and you got to come and like host some of those games, because that's fantastic. I want to play those.
I do have a list, like it's actually a PDF with all the Magic Sports game in there. I'll dig it up. I think it might be on my old laptop. This is my new laptop here, but I'll forward it to yourself so you can have a peruse through. And
so great. Like people have heard of Comedy Sports. That's been around for a long time, but Magic Sports, wow, that's challenging.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I got a quick story. Did a wedding gig last weekend and love weddings because everyone's in a happy mood. You're not trying to break the ice between corporate, clients and stuff like that. And I start working the reception, and I'm doing a few mind reading bits sprinkled throughout it. And I've divined, the names of two separate people that they're thinking of, and the mother of the bride starts hearing about this. Oh, he knows who these two people are thinking of. I've done some card effects where I've guessed, the card people have thought of. So by the time I get to her, she's just heard all of this stuff of me reading minds, and she decides to challenge me, but as a classic spectator would, in the way that she did exactly what I thought she would do. So she's like, man, I've heard you were able to read this person's mind. I want you to read my mind. I want you to tell me the card that I'm thinking of. I'm like, oh, okay. Now I'm just going to do the classic effect that I would, which is to take a good guess and sit on her hand. But then whatever card she says, like, I'm going to make it a joke that of course I can't get that right, and then magically make it turn into the card she says. But she then goes, after I sit the Queen of Hearts on her hand, because I'm like, you're the mother of a bride, you've been drinking. That's probably the only card you can think of. But then I see her turn, she's like, and I'll even tell my friend just so I'm not like changing my mind. I'm like, okay. And then the fact that she is talking to her friend for more than like a second confirms to me that it probably is the Queen of Hearts, because she's there for like long enough to say a long card. So I'm like, this is way too good if this hits. Anyway, so I'm ready to just find a different card, but I'm like, and so I've, she's really built this up, and I've sat this card on her hand, and I'm like a meter away, and I'm like, okay, so I gave you so many chances to change your mind. This is only in your head. What card are you thinking of? And she bloody says it, the Queen of Hearts. And she's like, she sells herself. She's like, I changed my mind 3 times before I thought of it. I thought of Queen of Hearts. I'm like, okay, then you turn it over. And there is a mother of a bride out there that genuinely believes, like not even as a joke or magic, she like genuinely believes that I'm a psychic. And I don't know how I feel about that, but it is funny. And I heard from the groom afterwards when he was thanking me, he's like, man, this, my mother-in-law is like talking about you a lot. since the wedding. Even though we got married, I've been hearing a lot about you. And so that's my story. I am apparently a true medium out there. So with great power comes great responsibility. But it was a good gig overall. Can
I tell you the 2 things I love about that story? One, the fact that he has years of stories to pull from, right? Of the, what happened on a gig, and he goes, so last weekend, it just happened. That's how often, that's how you have a cool job. It's like you can pull from this is what happened last weekend. That's why I'm like, pay attention. You have a story every time you go home, but you can't prove. Can you prove to me that you're not psychic? Like, who thought of it first? You can't. That's what those moments they cannot prove, and neither can you. That maybe you actually did read her mind, and that's why you went that way, because she thought of it before you did.
You're right. Yeah, I did definitely Sherlock Holmes her and, profile her to go, all right, you do look like a classic Queen of Hearts. So, yeah, you're right in that sense that is
call it what you
my
want,
intentional
it's a skill
decision.
And, you don't know how to necessarily how you honed it.
Can I say to your point that profiling is a very real thing? I did a show on Friday night, and I met this lovely Russian lady who works in government, and she specializes in profiling. And she profiled me, and I got to say, she hit about 90%.
Wow.
Yeah. Like,
incredible.
Yeah. It was staggering. Like, she knew just by looking at me a lot of my habits. She didn't know my history. She's like, I can't tell you, like, she goes, I don't think that you're this and that. You might be like, I don't know if you're an only child or not. Like, she couldn't sort of gauge that, but she was just like, you're this, you're very regimented, you never smell bad, you take a lot of pride in your hygiene, you're this, you're that, like just things that you wouldn't think about that you would know about a person. You know, she's like, you change your toothbrush every month. I'm like, yeah, I do.
You're obviously not from Perth.
You know? Yeah. And Tim did ask, did she know I was in a band? And the answer was she didn't. She didn't.
Oh, jeez.
That was the 10%.
Cheers, everyone.
We have, yeah.
Oh, that's the wrong sound.
Yeah.
That's that before there was so many magic podcasts, and I started listening to like magic podcasts and other things. Like the ones that interested me the most of the like was stuff about like FBI profiling. That I love that. It's crazy. It's crazy interesting stuff. That and essentially that's what you're doing. You know, like I walked up to a table and I knew out of 4 people, I knew like this guy's going to be the alpha male. I can tell right from his mannerisms, he's going to be the jerk or heckler I got to deal with. And right when I walked up with my deck of cards, he goes, "Oh, you do card tricks? Let me show you this one." And he just takes the cards, does some stupid trick, and then just walks off. And it was like, boy, did I peg that? And all of the other guys are looking at him like, what a jerk. And I did my thing. Like he wanted to be my opening act. And it was just like, later I'm going, how did I peg that? How did I know that like of these 4 people, this guy was the one that was going to act that way? It's crazy.
Actually, can I share something with you guys that happened to me just before we wrap up the episode when somebody does take your cards? So I was performing away at my residency on the weekend, and there was this gentleman who was like, "Let me do a trick," and I was like, "I wouldn't want to follow my act, but go ahead." And then he has this woman choose a card, and then he gets her to hold the cards, and he's getting ready to slap the cards out of her hand, and I just went, "Don't do that. Don't do that." And I just went, and we've had conversations on the podcast prior to this, Michael, just for reference. So we've just said like, you shouldn't slap things out of people's hands. And we said like, let's not do that trick. Let's stop. And I see him getting ready to do this. And for 2 reasons. One, don't abuse this beautiful young lady. Okay. Cause you're trying to impress her. Don't do that. Number 2, I don't want my things on the floor.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't want to pick things that have been off the floor and then have other people touch them. It's just a point of professional pride and not a great customer experience that I want them to have. Was I wrong or rude by just saying like, don't hit those cards. Don't do it. Don't do it. Trust me. And I feel like I did him a service saying don't do it.
Absolutely. First of all, people need to have respect for other people's property and not just completely disrespect what is your essentially prop, not just something you keep on the shelf at home that you don't care about. And so I consider it extremely disrespectful if somebody takes anything that I have on me and throws it in the water in a drink or drops it on the floor or rips it or whatever. It's just like, why would you?
I've gotten the habit of doing. If someone asks me and I'm handing them the cards or talking about them doing something, I literally say, as long as you're not going to whack cards out of people's hands. And
oh yeah,
90% of the time they're like, oh.
And we're tired of, and the other reason that, it's completely ethical is we are tired of seeing the trick your uncle showed you.
Yeah.
Nobody needs to see that anymore.
What I say now more than anything is, are your hands clean? Go wash your hands. And I genuinely mean that. I genuinely mean that because I wash my hands every hour when I rove. I do 3 hours in my residency and I wash my hands all the time. And I just last weekend alone.
Spot on.
Yep.
It's the
but just last weekend alone, I'll be very clear in saying this. Not one dude washed his hands after using the bathroom. I'm talking, he was on the can. I can hear him on his phone. He flushed and walked straight out.
And he wanted to touch your deck.
Well, erroneous of that. Like, I don't want people like, go wash your hands. You can touch my stuff because I don't even want to shake your hand, pal. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's remarkable how gross some of these dudes are. So
they're probably from Perth.
Yeah. Well, on that note, friends, it's been a very fun and very quick hour. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure to set up a friendship with yourself and talk improv. Do please hurry back should you have anything else to say. Gentlemen, is there anything we need to say before we wrap up?
Well, in addition to, please, if you have the link to post, it starts tomorrow. Of course, we'll repeat it later. But if you want to jump in on the online improv course, go to the link right there on the site. So you have time to do that because 7:30 Central America time, we're going to be kicking this off, and it's a 4-part program, 4 weeks, 90 minutes on Zoom. So we're going to get that going. And, if that's something that's an easy, like, smash or pass. If that's something you're into, it doesn't matter that it's last minute. Like, that's something you're looking for. And in addition, the talk show I do, which I got to get you guys back so we can reverse things. And I'm going to ask you as many questions as I can. And that's called Something Up My Sleeve, which, I forgot to show you. I do have something up my sleeve. And that is where I interview magicians, and we do, just kind of an improv talk show interviewing magicians. It's been on the International Brotherhood of Magicians Facebook page. And by the way, here's something else. You can't even see something.
Oh, wow. That's invisible. What? Is that because it's green? Is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah, it's green. I'm totally green.
Holy moly.
Yeah. Yeah, he just revealed the secret. It was magic. No.
Oh, that's right. It is magic. Yeah.
It's something magic. Yeah.
Wow. So you could make your head disappear if you just put enough of that
green bag on.
Head.
They have
That's Yeah.
Nice.
Wow, this is getting creepy. That's awesome. So we're going to grab that link from Michael. So that will be in the description of wherever you're watching. That's a new word. Watching/listening to this.
If you're doing laundry.
I also believe Michael, on his podcast, he interviewed a guest that we actually have on next week, which is Mario the Magic Maker. I believe you had him on at some point, and I can foreshadow that on a tangent that we have him next week on the pod.
Love him. Oh, don't miss that one. Jeez, what amazing guy. So fun.
And I can't wait. And so maybe, listen to Michael's episode as a foreshadow to then joining us next week. Look, thank you again so much for having us.
This freaked him out, by the way. Mario, as you know, who can like build robots out of cardboard. I did this I had a green drink, and I was like, watch this. And I was just kidding. And he was like, what is happening? Like, he doesn't matter. He messes with cardboard, not green screens. And he was just like, and then everybody's laughing, right? His wife's laughing. And then he still goes, I don't understand. How did he do that? She's like, I'll explain it to you later. That was wild.
Interesting. So that's his kryptonite is literally green kryptonite. Becomes invisible. Oh, that's brilliant. All right, we're going to leave it there, my friends. We could talk all day, and we will have to have Michael back. But thank you again for watching, my friends. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening. It's time for us to disappear now. But we'll see you again on the next episode of The Magic Guys.